Welcome. This is the Late Late Show with BT, where views with security and law are being provided to you, the public. We have some updates today. First, we'd like to begin with the terrible news of losing Hugh Hefner. And I'm just going to pull up. So I'm like, what is going to happen next? What? So if you don't know who Hugh Hefner is, he is the founder of Playboy. Because I was studying. So then I happened to look in and I saw his name. I was like, no. Because, somebody up in age, my mind, I don't always think that way, but it's like, you just hope that it was not anything terrible. So I was not pleased to find out that he passed away. And then he passed away the same day, because I have a class called Biblical Ethics. So in my studies, I was discovering information about Moses' law versus Israel. And if you know anything about the Playboy Corporation, David Israel is an employee there. So I was understanding the difference between, discovering the difference between Moses' law and the role that a David Israel would play as an employee there with Playboy with regard to the purpose of Playboy and its contributions. So that was early in the day. Now, granted, I don't know what time this happened because that hasn't been released. And then for the show, which I didn't get to either, Playboy is one of our sources today. So for those sources, we'll be reading from Town and Country, February 2016, Out, October 2017, Good Housekeeping, July 2016, Good Housekeeping, June 2016, Playboy, June 2016, Parents, September 2016, and for the book, this happened to catch my eye because this was a question, I was kind of wondering, like, about this person and how this person can have peace with everything that's going on as a public artist. So for the book, it will be Love, Lust, and Faking It: The Naked Truth About Sex, Lies, and True Romance by Jenny McCarthy, who, ironically enough, as well, began her career as a Playboy model before launching a high-profile comedic television and film career. So that is going to be the book. So I was like, what are we going to do without Hef? Because I am really into the Girls Next Door and the movement, the Girls Next Door workout. And if you don't know what the Girls Next Door workout is, it is a workout that includes 3 Playboy artists, and it was filmed at the Playboy Mansion. It's Holly Madison, Bridget, and Kendra Wilkins. Kendra Kendra W. And so I own a copy. And in addition to that, again, I appreciate and like that movement that it represents. So I'm like, I would like to be I'm a part of that movement, like that's my Holly. That's my Holly Madison. If that's my Holly Madison, well, no, I'm not gonna say if that's my Holly. That's my Kendra W. And if that's my Holly Madison, that's my Kendra W. Well, then that's my Bridget. So I was really supportive of that movement. So I was like, will it ever get to a point where it will come to pass? This unity. And so I was disappointed that I wouldn't be able to physically meet him. But there is David Israel that's there, that still works there, which is a good thing. Which brings us to the next thing. So I'm like, well, who? Then I started thinking about Mr. Puff. Mr. Puff could support it. So Mr. Puff was another new discovery, and I have a few discoveries to share. Mr. Puff was another new discovery. I remembered this, everything that I do that I'm like really, really for, it has to have like my stamp on it. It's like a tattoo. It's not, I don't encourage being like a chicken head with your head cut off, like I put on Facebook about the individual pecking everywhere because you have no clue with where you are. I encourage, just having, being within guidance with regards to who you are. And so I found another part of me in a contribution. So then, I'm like, I went back to that, and then I found another discovery, Mr. Puff. So I'm like, upon further review, I'm like, Mr. Puff and Mrs. Puff have been together for over 47 years. So this is longer than Junior Mafia, longer than Bad Boy Entertainment. It's been before 47 years, which I like, which is very attractive because, it goes beyond who you are or what you have or what you've acquired. Of what you gained, or because it's something, this person has always been a part of your life. So that to me is awesome. So if you don't know with those references who my Mr. Puff relates to, is Sean. Whether you call him Diddy, whether you call him Puff Daddy, whether you call him P. Diddy, still Sean John Combs. So I'm going to do a song to him a little later on. It kind of has him in mind and Hugh Hefner and the whole movement of Girls Next Door workout. So I kind of have all of that in mind in the foundation of this show. And another thing that I encourage you, the public, because I found my Mr. Puff, I want my Mr. Puff. I want my Mr. Puff and Mrs. Puff. And I've posted on Facebook what that looks like. And something else that was brought to my attention before Mr. and Mrs. Puff was brought to my attention was one of his lyrics in Same Damn Time with Future and Chris, and I almost said Chris, and Ludacris was his line that says, "I got that built the mall by your house money." Hold up. So I'm encouraging him to find that in Mr. and Mrs. Puff, because there is a mall in question, and it's not for the purposes, with regard to Mr. and Mrs. Puff, for the purposes of what your perspective of a traditional mall is. So I'm encouraging that. And I'm encouraging him to locate here, which is where we are broadcasting in Virginia. Because that's one thing about being broadcasting on the web, is because you can be anywhere, and anyone that has access to the web can hear yourself. But we are now settled in broadcasting out of the state of Virginia, of the United States. And another awesome discovery was John Oliver, who has a show called Last Week Tonight. And his shows range from, the little clips range that are available on YouTube range from 3 minutes, and I've seen one go as long as 45 minutes. But I like his delivery. I admit that there are sometimes I don't agree with everything that he says, but being a person that appreciates this industry and what it stands for and how you deliver and how you care for the public in your delivery, that really doesn't bother me. So I like that, and I like how he I like in his delivery how it's like, I don't, it's like, I don't really like, he appreciates time. We don't have a lot of time here, so let me hit the important facts, keep it comedic, and make it informative at the same time, in the amount of time that we have to have this experience together. So I like that. I found myself trying to, watch as many as I can on YouTube with the clips. One that kind of I'm thinking of right now was one that he did on this wax museum that had all these different presidents, and they were closing, so they decided to put the presidents up for auction. And so he shared some people who bought some of them. Rachel Maddow was one, I don't recall who. Jon Stewart was another, and his show bought 5 of them. So I thought that was very interesting. And that's just one example. I haven't found any of his clips that I've viewed. And the only thing that I don't know, since I haven't watched it, evidently it comes on Sundays at 11 p.m. I'm not sure if that's Central or let's take a look. If it still comes on, I'm not sure if that's Central or Eastern. I'm going to find out right now. Actually, this says it comes on Mondays at 8 p.m. Central Time. But on the clips, it was as if it comes on at 11. So you can verify that on your own. But that's, John Oliver. And evidently, this also says that Jon Stewart is a part of his cast. So all these different people, but he's like the main person that's delivering the information. So that's Last Week Tonight with John Oliver. And another share. I am awaiting Mona. If you don't know who Mona is, there is an animation film that was released in 2016, which addresses the idea of a demigod, especially as it relates to certain celebrities. Among them that's in it is The Rock that plays Maui. So I fell in love with Little Mona. So I'm awaiting not only Little Mona, but Maui as well. So I guess he'll serve as the, and if you don't know, Maui is played again by The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. So I'm awaiting them, and which can be a welcome collaborative partner with my Berry Bitty City, because I do have some of those as well. So I'm excited about that. And an update on the case that we are a part of right now. So there's a lot of discovery that I've been putting on Facebook with regards to that, such as predation and predatory victimization, that has come across through my criminal justice studies. So we're hoping that we're not pleased with the law enforcement that is here and that is in the city of where this case is being held, mainly because the chief just seems out of place. There was one chief when this case started, and I don't know what happened, but there's another chief now, and the new chief, quote unquote chief of police, just seems very out of place. You know, for a show that like this, where we have to, it is for the public, but we are very industry oriented. When there's someone out here, an artist that has been out called Master P, when there's the person that I had put with regards to Chicken Head getting pecking everywhere, don't know which way, when it's that person that's out there that's not, that's not with peace with the rest of the industry. You have those type of conflicts, and then you have this same, it can't do anything but appear to be a conflict, when those issues haven't been resolved in industry. And then you have this trying to be this in a city that got, industry orientation. So I'm hoping that will resolve itself, as soon as possible. Another update, we've mentioned Brad Pitt as an interest. That's not to take away from Mr. Puff, who could be a substitute host. But anyway, the show, the interest is Brad Pitt, and we've sent updated information, and we haven't shared any information regarding sexuality or bisexuality. However, I have been very open about it during this show. But we have shared information with regards to who we are with AIDS and the AIDS epidemic. That, among other things. So hopefully we're, that is going to work itself out. And not only with my Mr. Puff be returned and brought here, but our Mr. Brad Pitt will be returned as well. So I talked about John Oliver. I talked about losing Hugh Hefner. I talked about Mr. Puff. I talked about Brad and Mona. So those are all the things that we're going to share before we get on into the show. And we are going to begin with Eric Steinman. And I have to admit that this particular piece, in which I don't really do, I just share everything all at once. But this, I just want to share that I noticed a change I started the show in New York. So I noticed a change. I don't know if it's because now we're filming out of a different state, but there's been a change in Playboy and how it presents its information in its artistry. So I just want to say that change has been acknowledged, appreciated. So we're going to begin with Eric Steinman. No one knows this better than Chris Ellis, the veteran graffiti writer and street art pioneer whose intricate angular signature, Days, was a familiar sight in 1970s and 1980s New York. And that's with regard to Chris Days Ellis. Chris Burdick. Frazier had spent that and the precious day in court watching the man she loved being tried for participating in the gang rape of another woman. And that's primarily because the genetic evidence is often not from just one person. When police investigators swab that weapon, they may find cells from your skin, your friend's saliva, the murderer's skin, and the victim's blood all mixed together on the broken bottleneck. All those cells contain DNA, but the investigators' tests don't show which bits came from blood versus saliva or skin cells, nor from whom. There's good reason to believe Robinson may have been wrongly convicted thanks to such a misinterpretation. It's a hard scrabble town in southwestern Georgia built on big farms and big timber, but today some 40% of its inhabitants live below the poverty line. Bolted for the back door, but the man pointed the gun at her. That's when the guy with the gun told her to take her clothes off and get on the bed. Before the three of them left through the back door, the one with the gun said, "We know who you are and we know where you live." She went to the back door and pointed the gun at the door. For one thing, today's DNA tests are far more sensitive than they used to be, and that improvement is a double-edged sword. For years, German police were flummoxed by a supercriminal they called the Phantom of Heilbronn, a woman whose DNA they found on guns, cigarettes, half-eaten biscuits, and other evidence at the scene of crimes ranging from burglary to murder. The toss in the letters for Grover Cleveland, George Washington, Dwight Eisenhower, and now you have Auger Redlich Magawayne on the Vincent Weather Wheel See Hot and Notes. That was enough for me. That was enough for him to be convicted, despite 11 witnesses placing him at a skeet shooting competition in Dallas at the time the rape occurred in Tulsa. Those bad analyses led some prosecutors to hugely exaggerate the probability that a suspect's DNA tied him to the crime scene. Last spring, Washington, D.C.'s crime lab was found to have misused the CPI so badly that it was barred for 10 months from handling any more DNA cases pending reforms. And last fall, the Texas Forensic Science Commission ordered state crime labs to review tens of thousands of cases involving DNA mixtures stretching back to 1999. Robinson was the baby of the family. By the time he was 12, he started playing what he calls the drug game. That's nothing to be proud of, but to be labeled a rapist? Robinson claims he and White passed each other around April 1993 in the county jail where they were both incarcerated. Robinson for the beating, White for the shooting. By that time, police had put together enough of the case to question White about Sherry Lindsay's rape. Both lawyers mainly asked the GBI analyst, to explain the difference between the certainty of Tyrone White's match and the cannot be excluded conclusion for both Moore and Robinson. On the order of 1 in 10 billion, said the GBI analyst, there are two big reasons why Humphrey Ken thinks Robinson should have been excluded as a suspect. Out of all the locations, the DNA at D3 is the most likely to be detected in the lab. He should be contributing twice the signal here, and he's nowhere to be found. Frazier followed Robinson's advice and moved back to the Chicago area where she'd grown up. Frazier is going back to school part-time to earn a certificate in DNA forensics. There are calls for crime labs to be made independent of police and prosecutors, which will remove the potential for a conflict of interest. If the Georgia Supreme Court rejects Robinson's latest appeal, his only recourse will be to file another habeas petition, this time at the federal level. When will somebody believe the truth of the whole situation? So that last question really got to me because, starting doing this show and becoming more connected to industry. Industry to me means it could be any genre. But consistently, I refer to industry as any form of product or artistry that is suitable for the public or that is has a purpose to be distributed to the public or has a focus with regard to the public. That to me relates to industry. And, doing this show and including different things, I've just found that, it's time for the industry to enforce what has been put out there, with regards to catching criminals, with regards to providing justice to not just the public, but criminals, with regards to love and togetherness. So I'm not going to necessarily say that it takes a little bit more than belief, but, it's that commitment, it's that word, it's that standing in what you are and what you have and what you represent, and accepting, even if it's unfavorable, because there's part of the job that is not favorable, is having to witness or address things that are out of place. And that's not just simply out of place where you can just put it back in place, but it's out of place where it warrants a penalty that's a loss of life or it warrants a death penalty, and it's recorded, but the challenge is having the information of why. and how. For instance, Raisin in the Sun, you know, a show that has been out for however long. Lorraine Hansberry, you know, the same situation. It's been out since first published in 1959. Probably had its first appearance adaptation in 1961 on screen, maybe. Debuted on Broadway in 1959. But when someone gets the story, the actual story, when it regards to the characters, then you know that's where the industry enforcement comes in. And so there's really a strong need to have like an actual, I don't know if the right word is outfit, but an actual squad or an actual department with regards to industry that can be responsible for these things, you know. So that's all I'm going to say about that. But there's one character in the one with Mr. Puff that doesn't belong there, and it's not Benita's, and it's not Mama's, and of course, it's not Mr. Puff's. The biggest thing I had to learn with the Daily Show was that I couldn't be the anger for people. But let me just stop and go there, because it's like some things, you know, it's like in this industry, you have to really know, even if you don't know what you get into, you have to at least agree and consent that you are fully in with all that is you, you know, with your blood, with your sweat, with your tears, that you are completely in. And however that happens, you know, you want to always think that you're going to be on the right path. You're going to be put on the right path. You want to always think that you're going to, you know, and this is just coming from me. You always think that, you know, whether you're good or whether you're bad, that you're going to be with, you know, the proper guidance. But there are sometimes, you know, there are some roles that this is what it is. It's going to have the death penalty in the role because of the situation in that particular time. So with regards to casting, a casting director or a casting agency could only logically cast someone who has that similar offense or who has that will, that, you know, willingness to commit that crime, you know, or who was put in industry for that specific resolve, you know. And so when it comes to Ruth Younger's Audra Ann McDowell, I would say, and we're still questioning Justin Martin with regard to Travis Younger, but with regards to Audra Ann McDowell and her Tony win, I would say that hers, you know, was one that was industry, that it was put in that role, because you have to think of it like this. These public artists, they're responsible. There's a responsibility there when it comes to the public and the reach of public artists. So, you know, it's like the situations and are put in each character. And so I don't think that, you know, it was intentional. You know, I don't think that it was a situation where she was put off path. I think that her whole, because this Audra was cast in this role, I think that her whole career had to do with what that situation is, and it's not by coincidence that there's a Tony Award involved in it. When you have a show like this that intersects the public and security and industry the way that it does, it comes with, especially going out and being public, it comes with a lot of security. So I'm not necessarily saying that all of the other Tony Award quote unquote winners were fakes or received fakes, but me personally, it's like that integrity, the authenticity of a Tony is in that particular casting decision. So it's like getting past that is when, you're gaining strides and gaining progress with regards to the security of not just the issues in that play, but the security of that particular award. The biggest thing I had to learn with The Daily Show was that I couldn't be the anger for people. John Maroney, controlled by the two parties and funded in previous years by corporations including Philip Morris and Anheuser-Busch, the organization symbolizes everything outsiders such as Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump have campaigned against. The idea behind the debate commission was always slightly nefarious: to create an airtight showcase for the two big parties and their policies, and to exclude insurgent candidates from challenging them. The next debates were hosted in 1976 by the Nonpartisan League of Women Voters, which convinced President Gerald R. Ford to face Georgia Governor Jimmy Carter 3 times. That's when I said, we're not going to be an accessory to the hoodwinking of the American public. In every election since, the nominees have abided by those terms and added more demands. When Perot ran again in 1996, the big party struck a secret deal excluding him from the debate. Maybe this would be the year the bell tolls for the CPD. Even now, the debate commission seems to be girding for the inevitable battle to preserve its fiefdom. So I'm going to look up 2 words: nefarious and insurgent, just because. Nefarious. Wicked or criminal, typically of an action or activity. The idea behind the debate commission was always slightly nefarious. Insurgent. Rising and active revolt, a rebel, a revolutionary. For the two big parties and their policies, and to exclude insurgent candidates from challenging them. The Baja or Baja bug is back and more refined than ever. Precise dosing and artisanal craftsmanship are revolutionizing the business of edible THC. At the very least, it'll make hauling to the beach a little easier. So back to Chris Burdick. In a world that worships the certainty of science, what if DNA testing, a backbone of modern criminal justice, was shown to be as unreliable as witness testimony? What if that's the whole point? What if that's the angle? That if, DNA can be brought in as fact, or DNA can say this about this and have a compelling argument, well, then you lose your argument for whatever it was that, you tried to say. Another project that is going on right now, we have been assigned, or I've been assigned, Brandon Moon, who was someone that was released due to DNA evidence, and is a part of the Innocent Project. So he was charged with rape or sexual assault and spent many years in jail, over 10 years in jail with regards to it, but was finally released and is now in appeal with regards to that case. Stacey Roddick, maybe that's why Father John Misty chose her to paint his latest album cover. It's certainly why we chose her to bring this month's fiction, Goodbye to Routine, to life in illustration. 4 irresistible playmates brought together to embody the Blackheart spirit. What about the Hawaiian Tuna Bowl? Which brings me to think of Dirty Diana. Like, I don't think I shared this, but I just happened to pick up some CDs in the library and it became my new discovery. Somebody that's been out forever, like forever, Michael Jackson. So I'm listening to him. Remember, I recall him coming out. I was like a little kid, back when Beat It and our Thriller, liking him then, but never really stayed with him. Never really stayed with the Michael Jackson. So then I'm like listening. I'm like, I just totally appreciate him as an artist, like his vocal variety, and it's like, where was, I'm like, he is like really awesome. Like, where did you come from? And Dirty Diana is one of those songs that I kind of like and kind of get. 13 Burger 2.0. We gave the beloved deviled burger recipe from 1938 GH Modern Street Cred with our newest bun obsession, the pretzel roll. Jennifer Rainey. Scientists think that because certain types of clouds can reflect and scatter the sun's rays, increasing the amount of radiation that makes it to Earth's surface. Scientists think that's because certain types of clouds can reflect and scatter the sun's rays, increasing the amount of radiation that makes it to Earth's surface. Sunscreen comes in 2 basic types, physical and chemical. If you have darker skin, you may prefer the chemical kind, since physical blocks tend to be white, pasty, and hard to rub in. Physical blocks can be less irritating, so they're a better choice for those with allergies or sensitive skin. Put the old base tan myth to rest. Eat to beat melanoma. The upshot, don't keep using last summer's bottle. Some of the most missed spots, including lips, feet, and the backs of the hands, can be toughest to treat cancer. And cancer on hands and feet tends to be more aggressive. That burned outer layer can quickly get dry and itchy. So that was Jennifer Rainey. Now for Jennifer King Lindley. You've heard all the buzz about mindfulness lately, and for good reason. The more you do it, the more you build the muscle of mindfulness. Just focus on your immediate experience, and when thoughts intrude, which they will, bring your mind gently back to your breath without judging yourself. Read on for ways to be more mindful, starting now. The key to being fully present in the here and now is to do only one thing at a time, that is, unitask. And be aware of what you're doing and why you're doing it. Breathe easily. Merely observing your inhalations and exhalations is one of the most basic ways to bring your brain back to this instant, and you can do it anywhere, anytime. You don't need to breathe in a certain way or recite a mantra. Just focus on the sensation of breathing. When we pay attention to the breath, it does tend to regulate to a nice steady pace, which quiets our whole nervous system. She suggests using this kind of basic 2-word caveman language to quickly redirect your focus back to your current experience. In fact, any activity, even brushing your teeth or sweeping the floor, can be turned into a mindfulness moment. Listen to the sound when a peel is broken. Take a deep whiff of the citrus scent. Put each segment on your tongue, feeling the bumpy surface and tasting the sweet tang. If you find yourself worrying about what a disaster your kitchen is, turn your attention back to the orange. As if regaining sanity weren't enough of a benefit, women in a study published in the Journal of Nutrition, Education, and Behavior who learned to eat in this manner consumed on average 300 fewer calories a day. probably because they became more aware of their body's hunger cues and were able to stop when they'd had enough to eat. One of the primary factors in happiness is novelty, which stimulates the brain, he adds. Some Buddhist monks and nuns ring a bell throughout the day as a gentle prompt to the whole monastery to bring awareness to the present moment. And if computers, smartphones, and fitness trackers are constantly pulling you out of the moment, use them to remind you not to get sucked in indefinitely. One of my students changed the password on her computer to breathe. So doing a live show, there's nothing like that for being present in the moment. I think I mentioned before that I don't read any of this. I prepare it beforehand most times, but I don't read any of it. So it actually is live, and I like that integrity of it. But it's not as easy as it looks. You know, you have to stay in the present moment. You have to be able to comprehend what you're reading. You have to already have a base and a foundation of basically everything from A to Z so that you can, you know, relate to different people who, you know, whether they've been to college for a specific focus or whether they haven't. So you can relate to all different types of people. Hardiest bite, back to nature, harvest whole wheat. Run the tap before starting the machine. Top tablet. We vetted 100 plus new books to find the best spine-tingling thrillers, movie memoirs, and stories that are just plain fun. And of them includes 32 Yolks by Eric Ripert. Celebrated chef Eric Ripert charmingly describes his childhood in France, segues into his brutal training in the kitchen, and ends with his move to the U.S. as a young man. And we're hungry to read more. Christine Kopaczuski. Everyone is focused on going viral on social media as a way to be successful, but the chances of that happening are slim. The bullying gave me the push to leave the farm and do something big. So I never really had an interest of going viral, you know, maybe because of being from Virginia, you know, so it's a little different for me. So I had to ask, you know, what is the best way for me to go from this type to, you know, being on television in addition to, I'm going to eat an animal cracker, which was one of those things that I'm not going to say it was hard to catch on, but it's like they don't really have a taste to them. But it doesn't bother you. You know, they're all shaped like different little animals. You know, it's supposed to be low fat. So back to going viral, being from Virginia. That's probably why that really wasn't a goal for me or something that excited me or something that I wanted to push to be. And I kind of steered away from, or it just basically stopped. There was one issue that was with Bamboos when we were broadcasting because they would show, you know, like different viewers. And this one is kind of like that a little bit too. But, you know, like while you're broadcasting, it will, like the different, it would, you know, and just being realistic, that just wasn't realistic for me. So I think the best route for me is to go from this to just going with something that has my reality. That's the best what's going to be best suited for me. Not really going viral and having it appear as if, I'm like this YouTube star and got like, all these different, that's not really an interest in mine, just because, from one perspective, when it comes to security, I get, but from when it's with pretension, I can't really go for that, like when it's just not accurate. Better than talcum powder. Robert Novogratz. If you find a dramatic statement piece in a bold shade, plan around it as we did in this little boy's bedroom. The GH Beauty Lab vetted 147 new launches to uncover the wands and formulas that get top marks for delivering longer, lusher lashes in the blink of an eye. Your beauty bag. Brighten your skin. That's what's in your beauty bag. April Franzino. The technique has been back in the spotlight with a buzzy new name, strobing. Kim K is a fan, and there are endless YouTube videos, but it has always been the pros and my secret weapon. So question, what's the best way to stop it from feathering? Intense colors, especially if they have a softer base, can tend to bleed. But there's an easy fix. Before swiping on lipstick, use a clear lip liner like this one from Mary Kay to line the perimeter of your mouth. Its translucent wax will help form an invisible barrier that keeps lip color inside the lines. That sounds awesome. Because when I did wear lipstick, I will always use a color lipstick, a color liner. So the idea of a clear lip liner, it sounds awesome, and it would probably even be even more awesome if it had like little. Now, this is not something that I would do for myself, but it would be interesting to see on someone else if it had a little like that sparkle in the liner, but it was still like clear, and then you add in the lip color. That would probably be very cute. See brighter, smoother skin in just 1 week. Unbeatable protection, courtesy of the best feeling sunscreen ever. Turn laundry time into turbo time. It's about to be a thing. Oh, Mr. and Mrs. Puff, it's about to be a thing. Be there, even when you're not. Because everyone loves to see us together. Crystal Wilson, if you don't tell me no, I wouldn't be in trouble so much. Jacqueline Burke Coates. Validating your child's feelings before telling him no can make the difference between his being disappointed and having a meltdown. If she's freaking out because she wants juice in her princess cup, which is nowhere to be found, offer to let her try your cup, or use a special new straw for a drink, or ask if she'd like to chase you around the backyard instead. Wrap your baby in the most trusted comfort and protection of Pampers Swaddlers, the only diaper trusted to be the #1 choice of hospitals. I'm going to stay right here and cause all kinds of trouble. Book 2 of the Hunger Games. So hunger has come up. So hunger, the difference between hunger and appetite, do you know what it is? Well, I'm going to tell you. Hunger, let me get this right. Hunger is physiological. Hunger is physiological. Appetite is psychological. So appetite is psychological in that it's when you're smelling the smells, when you remember the taste, when you hear the sizzles, and you think about food, you want that sizzle, you want that smell. It's psychological. You're having a psychological response, and that is your appetite. Physiological is something with regards to your body dynamics that results in that feeling of needing to be satisfied. Hunger is physiological, appetite is psychological. You can have fresh, wholesome, and delicious meals on even the busiest mornings. Laura Bash to be remembered with these clever cost-cutting ideas. Happy birthday indeed. And I'm gonna, because this is in here, we need to come together to bridge the nutritional divide. On Friday, September 29th, which is tomorrow, in partnership with First Lady Dorothy McAuliffe and the Commonwealth Council on Bridging the Nutritional Divide, volunteers across Virginia will come together to fight against hunger for the first ever Feed Virginia Day of Action. So I'm just going to stop there because hunger is physiological and it's regarding your body dynamics, why would you want to fight against it? It seems as though it's something that you want to get and have some type of relationship with, in a way that's peaceful with your body dynamics. Whether it's by volunteering at a food bank or assisting with harvesting crops for donation, volunteers will be able to give back to their local community and promote a food system that works for all Virginians. So if you're interested, you can learn more, find a volunteer opportunity near you, visit http://vfan.org/day-of-action. Warren M. Matty. What was the best day of your life? Asked my stepdaughter for the 100th time. She knew what my answer would be. The night you arrived, just 4.5 years old, to live with your father and me, I said as I tucked her in. I met father, my husband, in my mid-30s. He and his parents had raised her from the time she was a year old, brilliantly. I loved my busy, work-focused life as an editor in our 2-bedroom apartment. You'll be missing out on one of the best parts about being a woman, she said. Unable to get pregnant right away, I began to spend mornings at the fertility specialist. When I finally was pregnant, I only need to mention that I felt queasy, and she responded with a groan or by politely asking me to please stop bringing that up, and could I never talk about it again. Since I wasn't getting anywhere with bringing up the baby, I tried not talking about it to spare my formerly joyful, now selling 8-year-old stepdaughter. When you're of advanced maternal age and you worked hard to get pregnant, and you have to be careful not to bring your condition up around your angry, confused little girl, it will dampen your joy. What if I loved the baby more than her? I planned a killer birthday party at the rock climbing gym and waddled through it with a smile on my puffy face. I took her to the water park on a Sunday in July, hours before going to the hospital to be induced. The next day, I gave birth to a baby girl who needed me desperately, and with whom, thanks to my scrambled hormones, I became infatuated from the first deliriously happy, sleepless night in the hospital. Recently asked me again what was the best day of my life so far. This time, it was a test. I had given birth to her baby sister. Atai, I said, the night I first carried you sleeping into our apartment and the day I gave birth to Hopi. So that reminds me, I have a show coming up. It's called Happy Ending by Douglas Turner Ward. I'm performing one day, which is going to be October 18th, is at 8 p.m. It's at the Belgian Theater. So if you are in Virginia, in the Richmond area, Google Belgian Theater with regards to Virginia Union and come check it out. My show, again, is October 18th at 8 p.m. However, the actual cast of the show will begin the 19th, 20th, and 21st of October. So this show is my first time since I've gotten into the show working, doing an actual production. I've done it with the church, but it hasn't been more than 5 or 7 minutes. So this is, actually putting some lines in, working with someone that, identifies himself as a director. So I'll update you on how that would be, because having this focus on the show and it's considered to be a Black play, it's like those differences when you, when, there's still a Malcolm X situation or a Martin Luther King situation, so, if you're a prayerful person, pray about that with regards to me and everyone that I'm working with. But that seems to be like the main thing with that, like this, because for me, it's not a real, having some attitudes like that, it's not a real perspective when it comes to being Black. The big 7 includes my home, money, work, my marriage relationship, my kids' behavior, my child care situation, and my health. Moms get better than anyone, that we can't have everything running smoothly all at once. By the ripe age of 8, I knew that working motherhood was no joke. The big moment. Be there to monitor, but not correct. I guess that's a good thing when, I guess that's a good point. Like, because I'm not really in need of cut. Like, I don't want to be up against, an attempt to correct me. When I have specific, information when my knowledge is a little bit different. So again, I love to update you. I really believe that it's gonna be an interesting process, and that it's not gonna be resistive. Capture the best light or combative. The better I can make it look, feel, and taste, the better I feel about it going out into the world. Christine Hahn of Jackson, New Jersey. My husband told her she couldn't bring them, and Elizabeth replied, but Mommy said it was a makeup class. Back to school, countdown to the big first day. Alaska, there are a lot more ships than there used to be, and that's driven down prices. Kids in Singapore consider math activities to be a normal part of childhood. Jeanette Moninger. Even at 4 and 5 years old, she'd take one bite and be finished. Approximately 99% of girls her age outweigh her, which means that by medical standards, she is officially underweight. That's on all kids who fall below the 5th percentile. The appetite center in the brain controls how much a child chooses to eat, says MD, a pediatric nutrition specialist at Children's Hospital of Colorado in Ohio. Now that kind of conflicts with what I mentioned about the appetite being psychological and the hunger being physiological. Because this makes you feel as though appetite, by saying that the center is in the brain, controls how much it chooses to eat, that it's physiological. Children with eating habits similar to Brody's may be at risk of not getting the calories, vitamins, and minerals they need to fuel their developing brain and body. While infants and children under age 6 are generally too young to develop anorexia or bulimia, they can be diagnosed with avoidant restrictive food intake disorder, or ARFID. Infants with ARFID may refuse to nurse or take a bottle, consume only small amounts of milk or formula, and appear fussy and sleepy. Even if your child pushes food around her plate the whole time, she should sit at the table. While it may be tempting to give snacks anytime your child asks, it's best to let her appetite build up for meals. Being thin is often harder on boys than it is on girls, so try to tune in to clues that your child may be bothered by the way he looks, such as comments that he's not strong. More important than what a boy says back to a bully is what he learns to say back to himself. Without discussing his looks, remind your son that he is much more than his body type by playing up all the great things his body can do. Run, jump, climb trees, play the piano, and more. Stacy Colino. Doctors say many ailments, many common ailments, from bee stings to belly aches, can be treated with drug-free remedies. Take regularly probiotics may increase the number of good bacteria in the gut and subdue the bad kind, which improves overall intestinal health, says David Burke, DO, a pediatrician at the Cleveland Clinic Children's Center for Pediatric Integrative Medicine. Study co-author posits that this particular probiotic strain improves the gut's bacterial makeup, speeds up stall digestion, and inhibits pain by directly affecting intestinal nerves. Although the scientific evidence is mixed, many doctors believe that consuming honey from a region of the country may help relieve pollen allergies. The theory is if the honey contains antigens to the pollen where you live, it can slowly expose the child's body to the allergen and help build up its tolerance, explains Doctor. One study from Finland found that when people with a birch pollen allergy consumed honey containing birch pollen daily for 5 months before the start of the tree allergy season, they experienced a 60% reduction in their symptoms and twice as many sniffle-free days compared with people who took their usual allergy medication instead. Never give honey to children under age 1 because it can lead to botulism. And if you don't know what botulism is, it is food poisoning caused by a bacterium or botulinum growing on improperly sterilized canned meats and other preserved foods. So they're saying that do not give honey to children under age 1 because it could lead to food poisoning. Now, why would it lead to botulism if that's on the premise that it's improperly sterilized? So I guess this is saying the bacterium is growing on improperly sterilized canned meats, as if, well, if you give honey to someone under 1, it's at risk for bacteria. Mix 1 teaspoon of baking soda with a little less than a teaspoon of water, and you'll get a thick paste that you can smooth over any irritated spot like a bug bite, a bee sting, or a rash. Let it dry completely. It takes about 10 minutes before washing it off. Add a few spoonfuls of baking soda to the bath and it may prevent symptoms, says doctor. Use slight pressure. Don't be too forceful or it could cause irritation or bleeding in the nose, explains doctor. Give your child a glass of pear or prune juice plus a cup of water after school or in the evening so she won't have to rush to the bathroom at school. It seems crazy to inject a known allergic person with what they are allergic to, but we do, explains doctor. However, unlike for immunotherapy, there are few academic studies proving that homeopathic remedies such as arnica for sore muscles or causticum for bedwetting truly work. In fact, when scientists in Australia recently reviewed 176 individual studies of homeopathy, they were unable to find proof of a homeopathic remedy helping any single health condition. In fact, when scientists in Australia recently reviewed 176 individual studies of homeopathy, they were unable to find proof of a homeopathic remedy helping any single condition. Adele, for all the time she said exactly what we're thinking, but we're too afraid to say it out loud. What's the biggest lesson you learned from a teacher? For Jessica Hartshorn, entertainment editor. The biggest lesson that I learned from a teacher the biggest lesson I learned from a teacher biggest lesson I learned from a teacher. Well, I would say that a moment was with my English professor or teacher. And I would find myself getting frustrated, feeling as if I was not as smart as the other students in the class when we were asked to dissect a sentence, and by that, I mean, you had to identify each word in the sentence, not necessarily its vocabulary or its context meaning, but you had to identify it and explain what its role in that sentence was. So you had to explain what it modified. You had to explain what its purpose was in a sentence. And, it had to be, like for instance, this question, what's the biggest lesson you learned from a teacher? You had to go, you had to explain what that is, you had to, it was like bang, 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 bang. And I found that to be it was challenging, but at the time it wasn't a good challenge for me. I would dread when it was my turn, but I felt appreciative with regards to having the instructor as an instructor because I felt as though he had a grasp of what was given him in it, and he wanted to share that. He wanted everyone in the class to get something that he got, and it became something that was repeated over and over again, but fast forward, I just learned that when something appears like you're not getting it from someone else's, sharing, they're sharing what they got so that you can get it how they got it, that you are an individual, and sometimes being an individual and being unique doesn't lend itself to that type of structure, where, you're going like one, bang, 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 second student, bang, 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 third student, bang, 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 bang. Like it doesn't lend itself to that type of structure, like in military. Private 1, yes, sir. Private 2, yes, sir. Private 3, yes, sir. Squad, yes, sir. Like it doesn't necessarily lend itself to that. So I learned to not be discouraged when I'm faced with or when I have to address my uniqueness. Beauty buys worth your dime. Michael Musto on RuPaul. She's a fabulous fortune cookie in the body of Pam Grier, with feel-good sentiments helping her subversiveness go down more easily. Ru was breaking down boundaries by being a man in a dress who happened to be funny, sexy, erotic, not erotic, but exotic, and accessible at the same time. Well, I beg to differ, Ru, because you're not accessible. You go to his website and I think there's an email, but no one responds to you. So no, he may be funny. He may got sexy a little bit. He may can go there when it comes to exoticness, but accessibility, no. but I encourage you to be accessible. Chris Thomas. After decades of living in the shadows, the transgender community finally began to see true cultural recognition in 2014. That year made history as the first trans actor to be nominated for an Emmy for Orange is the New Black, and months later, the world was introduced to Transparent, Amazon series, an eventual smash hit about the family with a transgender matriarch named Mara. So I'm for transgender. To me, transgender and transsexual are similar, but I guess they could differ. But I consider myself to be a transgender, but from a different perspective. And even though I don't necessarily agree with the anatomy changing, I get it, with regards to, what this show stands for. I get why the thinking, the what a person, the attachment, the behavioral, the emotional, the thinking attachment that goes with making, going to transgender, and not just being a transgender, but being a transgender that will make that decision. Whether it's, taking hormones, whether it's using medication, or whether it's, severing off something or trying to, I have no idea how the females do it. Like I don't know how you can't grow it. I don't know how that goes. But anyway, I get it now. But one thing that I'm thankful for is that I never prejudged it before I got it. I remember, watching TV with my grandma, and Maury was one show that was really into that before, like, RuPaul started, before I knew about RuPaul. He would do the trans, the at that time, I don't recall them using the word drag queens. I don't recall them using the word transgenders either. But they would, I remember them wearing dresses as if it was a pageant that he would have on there. And, even as a kid, I thought it was just, I remember thinking, this is kind of awesome how they can metamorphosize like that. But yeah, thinking about you. A tornado flew around my room before you came. Excuse the mess it made. It usually doesn't rain in Southern California, much like Arizona. My eyes don't shed tears, but boy, they pour when I'm thinking about you. So I think this should be a good stopping point to Mr. Puff and Mrs. Puff. So if you've been with us from the beginning, or you caught any of the earlier shows, we have a segment, and I haven't been very segmented since being in this state. But when we started in New York, I was very segmented. But there is a segment called Cupid Crib where we support, because like I mentioned, when it comes to my ID, that's kind of where I stand at, because that's what you have. It's your social security, it's your ID. So you should be able to, you should be able to take a stand when it comes to your ID. and we have been charged with having that ability to identify it. So we share that with the Cupid Crib. So I happened to catch a Wendy Williams show, 2 clips. First clip was the guy from some show. I forgot. Some guy. But he was like somebody that he had a crush on. He was telling Wendy that he had a crush on a couple of people. And so, granted, I've been amnesia for a long time with regards to Mr. Puff because, I'm like, yeah, money, power, respect, I'm like dancing to his music. I'm like feeling his music. But the entire time he's been my Mr. Puff. So I've been like in amnesia for a long time. So this clip had brought up, one of this crushes of this guy. And Cassie was brought up. And but then it was like, no, Cassie, it was like, no, Cassie is one that's with Puff. That's with Diddy or whatever. So then another clip, here comes Diddy on the Wendy Williams show talking about Cassie. Me, I'm still in amnesia. Not like, that's my Mr. Puff. And so this artist, like, the Cupid Crib. So I'm like, it got to me that the reason why this, like as if, I was a radio, a radio station, this artist got heavy rotation, was that there was a reason for that, So I'm like, this artist chick, for lack of a better word, or this artist, because I don't use chicks with regards to the Cupid Crib. It's like that one for you, it's love, it's what we're about, that one for you. So I'm like, this is Cassie. So I put on Facebook, go home to the one that you're really with, which is Cardi B, and leave my Mr. Puff alone. Like, I don't really know how that is, but it's like when there's, whether it's a male or whether it's female, like, when the females, they don't really get down like that for real. That really doesn't make me feel any better that, she's trying to be like Mr. Puff. But, when it's like, they're not really into anything going in them that's like from the, that's like from the, because how, like, if you're with Cardi B, if some, I'm just gonna be blunt, if something's going in there, it's not gonna be natural, it's gonna be artificial, unless it's, something on that, but it's not gonna, it's not gonna be like a natural penis, and it's like, if you don't really get down like that, then just be you. The same thing with some guys. If you don't really, you may go in something, but that may not be what, that may not just be, that really may not just be your thing. So just don't, like, stop playing and just be you. And go in what's you and what you like. So, I'm not really gonna do it from like a perspective of like, go home to Cardi B, stop, like, it's because it's not even about my Mr. Puff. It's like, if that's not your thing, So anyway, well, this song is Lick. And it wasn't a situation that's like, you're with my Mr. Puff, so this is the only option for you, bitch. It's not even like that. So remember, this is a show with views with security and law. However, we also are very like behavioral oriented in fitness, mental health, you know, that type of thing. Like that whole like fitness, not just physical, but mental fitness as well. And you have to keep in mind, I started with a family fitness brand. Let me turn this down. And you have no Playboy. Look at me. Look at me. Look at me. Looking like I caught a lick. Oh, wait wait a minute. You know, I have to stop because I took a sip, but then I started thinking I was studying and I started feeling a few things at the same time. So I'm gonna do another one with this one. And this is the only song I know of this fella, but like it's so relevant to the times. Like, you know, like again, you have to keep in mind I'm like so totally ID focused, you know, and I'm like this guy, like he so got us, you know, with the lyrics of this particular Cardi B song. If I can find him, I want to do it. And another thing I like when people have timing. So I'm gonna start with Cardi B, and then this guy that got timing when it comes to Mr. and Mrs. Puff, or Mr. Puff and Mrs. Puff. I'm gonna follow it up with that. And again, with regards to look at me, I just be so thinking about what I posted on Facebook with regards to like, you know, don't you just love us? We're so cute. We're so adorable. You can't have one without the other, and you always have to have both. All right, look at me, looking like I caught a lick. Run up on me, you get hit. And all my bitches with the shit from New York is a bitch. Looking like I caught a lick. Since day one, I've been that bitch. Got some hitters in my clip. Looking like I caught a lick. Looking like I caught a. And I have to do the one with Offset. I just have to. Let me check since I stopped. Let me check and see if there's a version with Offset. Sorry, don't mean to be choppy. Okay, so this is the remix. So I'm doing the remix. Look at me. Look at me. Look at me. Looking like I caught a lick. Run up on me, you get hit. And all my bitches with the shit from New York is a bitch. Looking like I caught a lick. Since day one, I've been that bitch. Got some haters in my clique. Looking like I caught a lick. Looking like I caught. You know, they can't stop it, G. Bitch only talking to me. Diamond side hit and she swallowed me. Play with these rats like Monopoly. Make it say, like, bought that. Bitch wasn't cheap. They is what they eat. Show after show, I've been counting all week. I just ordered up free. Looking like I had a lick. On a better bitch. Ask me how I got the water wrist. Think about it. But they really want to take a pic. You can even leave out of here. Welcome this morning. I'm counting this money. This water dropped off me a fountain or something. Bitches and niggas not mountains. So I keep counting this money. I keep counting this. When I get run up, that shooter's ready for a come up. Promise you, I didn't luck up. Was running all night, didn't sleep till the sun up. Now I got up on my shit. Walk around like I'm that bitch. Every nigga wanna hit. Looking like I caught a lick. Run up on me, you get hit. And all my bitches with the shit from New York is a bitch. Looking like I caught a lick. Since day one, I've been that bitch. Got some hitters in my clique. Looking like I caught a lick. Looking like I caught a. Look at me, look at me. They ain't like me before, then they look at me. They go, oh, I got bitches so shook at me. They say, what you cooking, babe? I said, bitches got me on some new shit. I said, niggas got me feeling ruthless. Too much motherfuckers done died to me. That's why I just had to just prove it. I remember walking to the stores. I couldn't buy nothing. They look at me, thank. Now I just walk in the stores. I like it, I cop it. I don't even think. Rachel is asking for info. But then the deposits on it. Told the bitch, give me my money. Why you asking all this info? Run and get done up. Got shooters ready for a come up. I'm sure I didn't luck up. Was running on. I didn't stick to the sun up. Now I got up on my shit. Walking around like I'm that bitch. Every nigga wanna hit. Looking like I caught a lick. Run up on me, you get hit. And all my bitches with the shit from New York is a bitch. Looking like I caught a lick. I'm gonna do that one again. Before I follow it up, let's do that again. My nose itch. Look at me. Look at me. Look at me. Looking like I caught a lick. Run up on me, you get hit. And all my bitches with the shit from New York is a bitch. Looking like I caught a lick. Since day one, I've been that bitch. Got some haters in our clique. Looking like I caught a lick. Looking like I caught. You know, they can't stop it, G. Bitch, don't you talk to me. Diamond start hitting and swallow me. Play with these swats like Monopoly. Make it say, bought it. And that bitch wasn't cheap. These niggas just stay, it's what they eat. Show after show, I've been counting all week. I just ordered up 3, looking like a head lit. Now I'm better bitch. As high as the water rich. Think popping hard, but they really want to take a pic. Can you believe I done got rich? Woke up this morning, I'm counting this money. This water drip off me a fountain or something. These bitches and niggas got mountains, and now I keep counting this money. I keep running, get done up. Got shooters ready for a come up. Promise you I didn't look. I was running all night, didn't see to the sun up. Now I gotta phone my shit. Walk around like I'm that bitch. Every nigga wanna hit. Looking like I caught a lick. Run up on me, you get hit. And all my bitches with the shits. From New York is a bitch. Looking like I caught a lick. Since day one, I've been that bitch. Got some haters in my clique. Looking like I caught a lick. Looking like I caught a lick. Look at me, look at me. They ain't like me before, then they booking me. The glow I've got bitches so shook at me. These, well, what you cooking, bitch? They bitches got me on some new shit. I swear niggas got me feeling ruthless. Too much motherfuckers inside of me. That's why I just had to just prove it. I remember walking in the stores, I couldn't buy nothing. They look at me stank. Now I just walk in the stores. I like it, I cop it. I don't even think. Bank tellers asking for info. Cause then my deposits on it. Told that bitch, give me my money. You asking all this info. Wanna get done up. Got shooters ready for a come up. Promise you, I didn't look. I was running all night, didn't see to the sun up. Then I gotta pull my shit. Walk around like I'm that bitch. Every nigga wanna hit. Looking like I caught a lick. Run up on me, you get hit. And all my bitches with the shit. From New York is a bitch. Looking like I caught a lick. Since day one, I've been that bitch. Got some hitters in my clique. Looking like I caught a lick. Looking like I caught a lick. Look at me, look at me. 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 All right. All right, so I'm gonna follow it up with this because and Chewy, I'm so hot, nigga. Like I talked to shit when I shot niggas. Like you see them twirl when they drop, nigga. And we keep them 9 millies on my block, nigga. And Monty keep it on him, he done drop niggas. And Trigger, he be wild and he some hot nigga. Tones know to get busy with them glocks, nigga. Try to run down and you can catch a shot, nigga. Ran through these checks till I pass out. Your shorty gave me net till I pass out. So all I do is cash out. And if you ain't a hoe, get up on my trap house. I've been selling since I'm the 5th grade. Really never make a difference what this made. The packs are to maintain. Get the money back and spend it on the same thing. Sure like the way that I ball out. I be getting money till I fall out. You talking cash dog, that goes all out. Shorty love the way that I fly out. Frequency thought, let all my dogs out. Send no pussy cats inside my dog house. That's from the dog pound. Let all my dogs out. We gonna pull up in the hoopty like we cops on them. With M16s, we gonna put some shots on them. I seen a little, just in the drop on them. Gonna call me up and I'm the hot song. Grammy Savage, that's what we are. Grammy Street dressing. I go so hard for my gun squad. And bitches, there's a problem. We gonna go raw. Shots popping out. The AR. I'm with broad daylight and we gonna let them things bob. Tell them niggas free Michi ho. Somewhere free Breezy ho. And tell my niggas see team ho. Caught a body about a week ago. I said then we tweaking ho. Run up on that nigga, get the squeezing ho. Everybody catching bullet hoes. Niggas got me on my bully, yo. I'ma run up, put that gun on them. I'ma run up, go dumb on them. Niggas got me on that young shit. Got me on that go dumb shit. Got me on that go dumb shit. And I want to do this one. Just because. Just because. Since day one, I've been that bitch. Just because, Mr. and Mrs. Puff. Just because I got that build a mall, buy your house money. Just because, hold up. And Chewy, I'm some hot nigga. Like I talked to when I shot niggas. Like you see them swirl when he drop nigga. And we hit them 9 millions on my block nigga. And keep it done drop niggas. And Trigger, he be wildin', he some hot nigga. Snow to get busy with them glocks nigga. Try to run down and you can catch a shot nigga. Running through these shacks till I pass out. You sure they gave me neck till I pass out. All I do is cash out. If you ain't a hoe, get up on my trap house. I've been selling since in like the 5th grade. Really naming any difference what the made and how to maintain. Get that money back and spend it on the same thing. Sure like the way that I ball out. I be getting money till I fall out. You talking cash dog, I goes all out. Surely love the way that I sponsor. Freaky don't let all my dogs out. Inside my doghouse, locked up in the dog pound. Let all my dogs out. We gonna pull up in the hoopty like we cops on them. With them 16s, we gonna get some shots on them. I sent them to send a drop on them. Gonna call me up and I'ma get on them. Grammy Savage, that's what we are. Grammy Shooters dressed in. I go so hard, but for my gun squad. And bitches, that's a problem. We gonna go raw. Shots popping out. I'm with broad daylight and we gonna let them things buy. Tell them niggas free Michi ho. Some way free Breezy ho. And tell my niggas smarter team and ho. Caught a body about a week ago. That's something we tweaking ho. Run up on that nigga, get the squeezing ho. Everybody catching bullet hoes. Niggas got me on my bully, yo. I'ma run and put that gun on him. I'ma run and go dumb on him. Niggas got me on that young shit. Got me on that go dumb shit. All right, that was Mr. and Mrs. Puff. But Mr. and Mrs. Puff, and we're gonna go back to the show. In 2008, the media hero became the first queer woman to host a primetime news show. Mark Sanford. Watching him try to launch a political comeback in South Carolina these past few months has been the Mr. Toad's wild ride of American off-year electoral politics. There are no ifs, ands, or buts because they only impersonate the best. It's the biggest shoe-in since Titanic, Michael Musso said of Brokeback Mountain just prior to the 78th Academy Awards, where Gay Weston was the favorite to win Best Picture. And here we have Lisa Kudrow. I'd be busy trying to do a sitcom so I could have a steady check. Fortunately, or unfortunately, but Lisa Kudrow is locked into one of those industry challenges. As you know, you may or you may not know, she was a cast member in Friends, which I think is syndicated and still shows up. But it's one of those things. It's like you are either a contributor or you're not. So with regards to Friends, you're not. Until that situation is resolved, that shows and that where there's that documented proof that you are. So that's kind of what it is. Kind of a little disheartening, but it is what it is. In 2003, the brief reign of the metrosexual with Mark Simpson. It seems ridiculous now, and actually it was pretty ridiculous at the time, but it's simply an objective fact that the United States went completely berserk over my insufferably pretty offspring with the really great hydrated skin. In 2003, only a year or so after I introduced the term to the US in an essay for Salon that went viral, metrosexual was proclaimed Word of the Year by the American Dialect Society. The Fab Five swishy, gay male grooming and lifestyle experts from Queer Eye for the Straight Guy, that year's new smash hit makeover show, were blamed for the epidemic of preening and were killed by the men's angry wives who explained that men need to be masculine. In fact, this disturbingly silly cartoon spoof turned out to be a fairly accurate representation of how America ended up reacting in real life. The uptake of gay male beauty concerns and the feminine wish to be desirable by men in general was something well underway by the 2000s without an intervention from the Fab Five. And the Queer Eye belonged to the queers. And it's also why America, which really wasn't ready to face up to this stuff back then, ended up having a full-blown backlash against metrosexuality by 2006. As the South Park Wives writers put in 2003, men need to be masculine, all of which was far more camp than the metrosexual ever was. But the star of the show and the apple of the camera's eye, the very dapper Don Draper, was essentially a late-aughts metrosexual daydream of what a 1960s retrosexual looked like. So let's look up metrosexual. I think, I'm not sure, it's like, isn't a metrosexual someone that puts, like, I'm just going to be like, I don't know, ignorant, or what is that word, when you like stereotypical without knowledge, is that ignorant? Isn't metrosexual somebody that wears loafers, vests, and put gel in his hair? I don't know. But the definition is a young, urban, heterosexual man with liberal political views, an interest in fashion, and a refined sense of taste. Walter Chin. The location was owned by the Beekman boys, gay gentleman farmers who had goats and sheep that freely roamed the property. I had to shoot the camera in one, the bag in the other. Ordained by the Pulitzer and Booker Prizes, writers Michael Cunningham thrust the gay Cunningham thrust the gay experience into the literary spotlight. Michael Cunningham, The Hours was originally going to be a contemporary version of Mrs. Dalloway, set among gay men in Chelsea. I'd always loved Mrs. Dalloway, and when I moved to Chelsea in New York, I was struck by the ways in which the London society in which Mrs. D moved resembled gay Chelsea, or at least the Chelsea of some years ago. When I was writing The Hours, AIDS was still most rampant among gay men, and although the epidemic is far from over, it was so much a part of my life at the time that omitting it from a novel would have been a little like writing about London in World War II without mentioning the Blitz. It was natural enough for the Hours version of Smith to be a poet afflicted with AIDS-related dementia. I'd assumed, along with my agent and editor, that it'll sell a few hundred copies and then march with whatever dating the come to the language table. Another gay novel would have won the Pulitzer sooner or later, but I'm glad to have been in the right place at the right time, as it were. When Buffy the Vampire Slayer premiered on the WB in 1997, it was still shocking to see a teenage girl who punched first, then asked questions. A girl who could fight her way out of danger using nothing but her bare hands. By the time the 90s drew to a close, a clutch of flamboyant gay tastemakers had injected much-needed life into major fashion houses. 1996 ran by the numbers. April 29, 1996, opening night of the Broadway production. Wilson. This life is a test, but it is an actual life. It's a life where you will be tested on how much love you can share, how authentic you can be with the people in your life and with yourself. And it's a test of how resilient you are when this life will inevitably try to knock you down. You've proven to be the physical embodiment of love. You disarm us with your personal style, your unwielding faith in a higher power, and your willingness to be unapologetically different. An openly gay boy of color in high school in the 1990s. You've been bullied and beaten at school and at home for being who you are, but you get up, put on your eyeliner, and not just survive, but dance through the pain and find yourself stronger on the other side. They will take their broken hearts into streets and say enough is enough when a young man is tied up, brutally beaten, and murdered in Laramie, Wyoming, eventually leading to an expansion of the federal hate crimes law to include crimes motivated by a victim's actual or perceived gender, sexual orientation, or gender identity. The Vasquez generation faces a new set of obstacles today, from protecting the rights they fought so hard to achieve, to continue to fight for legal protections in employment and housing, to standing up for other marginalized communities threatened by an increasingly menacing administration. And again, listen. Told with a colorful pop art sensibility and long stretches of dialogue, documents, and fictionalized movie reviews, the book inspired a 1985 film that won William Hurt an Oscar and earned a nod for Best Picture, a high bar for future adaptations. An out-of-town workshop fell flat, but a revived production in London and Toronto earned enough buzz to bring it to Broadway in 1993, where it won Tonys for Best Musical and for the three leads, including a 60-year-old Cheetah Rivera, high-kicking in white tie tails and a fedora. The blood and bodily violence depicted on page and film read very differently in the pre-cocktail AIDS era. Brian Schaefer. As he was a Black man dancing with his white Jewish partner, politics of race and sexuality were an appealing part of the package too. By 1988, he had died of AIDS, and Jones had been diagnosed with HIV. Like any good controversy, the brouhaha catapulted Jones to national fame and spawned debate over the value and validity of his methods and message. Jones, for his part, does not consider Still/Here or any of his work to be about AIDS. Significantly, though, by including people with HIV and AIDS in his portraits of persistence, Jones presented them simply as individuals facing their mortality rather than as members of a stigmatized group in a political battle. Brian Schaefer. So one thing about HIV and AIDS, it is believed that, because initially, I think it was an attempt to inform me that HIV is first. If it progresses, if it goes towards AIDS, then you have AIDS. You no longer have HIV, it's AIDS. But it is believed that that it's possible for HIV and AIDS to coexist. It's possible to have HIV and it never goes to AIDS. It's possible to have AIDS and never have HIV. We look back at some of the biggest, brightest moments of the past 9,131 days. But granted, there may be those that argue or that attempt to argue that if, it got AIDS, then at some point it met HIV. People were saying nobody's going to book you for next season because they think you're going to be dead by then. Here, 25 of the best books on the subject. Of them, Paul Monette borrowed time in AIDS memoir. So, Borrowed Time in AIDS memoir by Paul Monette is dated 1988. But there's also The Body and Its Dangers and Other Stories, and Angels in America Millennium Approaches, and Angels in America Perestroika by Tony Kushner, now in one volume. Play scripts are tough. The emotional punch packed by William Hoffman's As Is and Larry Kramer's The Normal Heart demands to be felt in the theater. In Martin and John by Dale Peck. Only the Brits got the novel, as Peck intended it to be titled It Is Fucking Martin in the UK. This can finally undo all the distortions and prejudice in popular history, and the band played on. And that's it for that. The year 4 landmarks brought gay life to the big screen like never before. Iraqi magnetized connections between the straight world and gay subculture. People here have turned to Russian reporters for lessons in how to be politically active journalists. But I learned all of that in the gay press in this country. Leatherbound. For them, the world isn't a battlefield. He woefully muses and rolls over, scrolling through one of their Instagram feeds. Anthony Rapp and John Russell. Did you ever imagine gay romances between the characters? No. But what I'm really proud of is, like everything with Star Trek's diversity, there are no arrows pointed to it. No big neon sign flashing, no storyline about what it's like to be a gay character on the ship. Jonathan Groff's Mind Games with Michael Martin. Jonathan Groff may be the closest thing we have to a life-size teddy bear, but this month the looking actor goes from snuggly to super dark. Now, it's pretty much the whole FBI, but back then behavioral science was a small part of the agency, says Groff. The bisexual Fifth Harmony singer is redefining girl power. Christine Kapachowski. Meet the Washington State couple who love that they are behind the times by about a century. It all started in early 2009 when Gabe, who collected vintage clothing, a corset for her birthday. We believe that the best way to understand a different culture is to interact with its daily life. So each day, after heads off to his job at a bike shop, dresses in her corset, panelettes, petticoats, and a long dress, and begins tackling a list of chores befitting a scholarly maid. Despite their essential lifestyle for the Christmas, it's not about replicating the past. We're trying to bring these principles into the modern world, adding that living Victorian has brought the couple closer. Heed the breed. Brian Kelly, founder and CEO of thepointsguy.com. You don't have to be a frequent flyer to rack up points and cash in. The best way is through credit cards. Nicole Saporita. Start your vacation off right with the best advice from our Institute experts and favorite travel pros. Place heavy items near the base. Put shoes, books, or other weighty items at the wheeled end to keep the bag stable when upright and prevent creases. Bring 2 small laundry bags. For easy storage, you'll have Biaggi's Zip Zack. It folds to briefcase size. Christine Kapatsuski. As military wives, they've been worn down, cycling in and out of jobs as they move from base to base with their Army Ranger husbands. By 26, Lisa had relocated 4 times and given up 3 careers in sales and marketing despite having an MBA. The finished results handbag starts at $120, are shipped to the company's headquarters, now located in Southern Pines, North Carolina, pieced together by military spouses and sold at the factory shop and at rriveter.com. 3 sharks, impressed with their business model and growth, offered just what the women had asked for, $100,000 for 20% equity. Cameron and Lisa run their business from 2 different states now, proving how mobile our Riveter is. What used to be their biggest grievance, frequent moves, has become an asset as word of the business and its opportunities have spread. We're helping to give them back their identities. So I'm like, well, what is so, R.Riveter? But I guess the thing that they're trying to sell is that the spouses, the military spouses, are able to work on something, like, and get a product out. Instead of they, will get bogged down from moving from base to base with their Army Rangers husbands, so they found something to do. Beat the heat. They warm up skin, immediately making eyes look brighter. Try Beauty Lab Task Winner and Jade Seal Holder, Neutrogena, or Free Eye Makeup Remover, which dissolve eye makeup better than 28 other formulas. Lay off eye makeup, which can exacerbate irritation, and slick on a bright or bold lipstick like Fuchsia or Berry to bring the focus to lips instead. Freeze 2 damp tea bags and rest them beneath your eyes for 2 minutes. If your eyes flare up easily, switch from an eye cream to an eye serum. It's thinner, allowing it to be absorbed more quickly and less likely to run into eyes. So that is part of April Fonzino, and we're not finished. Nobody wants to be defined by her age, but eye area skin ages faster than the rest of the face and can make you appear up to 20 years older in a latest study found. Find the best shade match to bring out your eyes. For blue eyes, warm golden and brown tones. For brown eyes, blues like navy teal and aqua. For green or haze eyes, plum and violet. Try our beauty director's go-to trick to light up and open your eyes. Use a pale neutral shimmer liner and shadow along lower lashes and the inner corners, as if you needed more motivation to quit smoking. In sets of twins, the ones who smoke had more prominent eyelid sagging and under eye bags than their non-smoking siblings, possibly due to reduction in collagen synthesis caused by tobacco, a study found. For insulin, curl lashes at the base with an eyelash curler, holding for 10 seconds to set the bend. If you're hoping to actually grow them, prescription Latisse, you can find more at latisse.com. It's the only treatment that's FDA approved, the Beauty Lab says, proven to make lashes longer, fuller, and darker in about 4 months. So I used to use one of those eye curlers. You just put on your eyelashes, press it, and it gives you it's supposed to give you a curl of your eyelashes and bring your eyelashes out. Eyes don't have to be a dead giveaway of late nights and early mornings. High circles, puffiness, and redness from Beauty Lab Task Winner Lancome Effacern's waterproof protective under eye concealer, which beat the others for under eyes, covering without settling in lines. Your beauty bag. So still with April Fonzino, I get these rough spots on other areas of my body too, and they're super stubborn. Tackle KP with a 2-pronged approach. In the shower, use a body scrub like the Derma Doctor, one below that contains both physical exfoliants, for example, sugar, to whisk away bumps and chemical ones, for example, glycolic acid, lactic acid, to dissolve them. So question, What's the best way to avoid frying my hair? I guess a good way is to get a product. If you're thinking about curling irons, those type of things, get a product where that has the temperature on it. So it's not just one temperature when you use it, you can make it lower. And that way it could be cool if you want it to be cool. That's one way, I guess. And I guess another way is to stop using anything that would have that could be described that it could possibly fry your hair. What are the best sales? I guess it's a good time to plug Mr. Puff and Mrs. Puff. We look so good together. What are the best sales in July? Get the best possible deal. Tim Tiemann. Absolutely, the daughter of her father, for whom the man is the brand and the brand the man, arrives on the 25th floor of the Trump Tower in Midtown Manhattan wearing a dress and shoes from her eponymous label. Later, an assistant will bring Trump her handbag, also from her label, black again with a splash of leopard print. Being is clearly an impressive balancing routine consisting as it does of a dizzying variety of professional responsibilities, her marriage, and her growing brood. And then there's the fact that she's the most visible child of the Donald, who is one of the most controversial people in America, and who just happens at this time of this article to be running for president. But as you know, he achieved success. Who introduced her father when he announced his candidacy has been described as the quiet power behind the Trump throne by Politico. The level-headed, calm antidote to her father's speak from the gut rabble-rousing. In the last year alone, he has proposed a ban on Muslims entering the U.S. and the deportation of 11 million residents of this country to somewhere south of the border. His focus is on politics, and he is running for the highest elective office in this country and arguably the world. And so, from a business perspective, I'm busier than ever. You hear that name and you expect fur, leather, but she's really poised, elegant, and down to earth, says co-host of MSNBC's Morning Joe, who's gotten to know the Trump family over the years and has taken Donald to task on the air on issues ranging from equal pay for women to his comments about the criminality of Mexican immigrants. At this point, I would never even contemplate it, but that doesn't mean that when I'm 50, I won't have a change of heart. Divorce is never a nice thing, but it's very easy to take family for granted. And when there's a divorce, you don't take things for granted so much. From him, she inherited this love of building of tangible things, of the beauty of creating something on a larger scale, she says. Design needs to be contextual to a project's location while striving to be iconic in its own right. Working with the best architects and interior designers in the world, how could she have escaped without inheriting at least its affinity for superlatives? We continue to set the bar around the globe. She was calm and she knew more about that building than we did. But Trump wanted something just for herself. It's a dress you can wear in the wardrobe and on a date with your husband. But rather than bristle at that observation, at least outwardly, she offers yet another eloquent, even-handed response. I want to disrupt the narrative around what it means to be a woman who works. Who is chief executive of Kushner Companies, a development firm founded by his father Charles, told me that he is always struck by the inspiration his wife provides to other women. She's also a big thinker, charismatic, practical, very thoughtful, and compassionate. She had the most wonderful birthday party a few years back, I believe on Halloween, says her friend Kevin Systrom, co-founder and CEO of Instagram. Though she are pretty much sound opposites. They became friends about a year ago through Kushner's brother Joshua. But now has become a much cherished half hour when there are no phones, no kids, no one to bother us, he says. It was, I'm going to build X number of buildings. And there it is, yet another glimpse of something inherited from Trump Perret. The faith that something bigger and better, maybe even the best, is always just around the corner. So it has been attempted to put here that, one of the reasons why she's with Jared Kushner is because Like it seemed like this clip just kept coming up with Donald Trump. This was before, I think, I'm pretty almost certain that it was before he became president, that he had made a comment about that if she wasn't his daughter, is she the only, no, she's not the only girl, that if she wasn't his daughter, that he would date her or something like that, or have sex with her. Like if this wasn't his child, that she's like his type. And because of that, that was why she ended up going with somebody that was totally not like her dad. Like I'm not saying that it was a test, but it was just kind of like how it kind of worked out, like how it's not a permanent situation. It's just a temporary thing right now, and when that situation is gone, it's like one of those things, when you get this lesson, then you got the lesson. I'm not saying it's like a game that when you reach this level, you can go on to the next one. But, back to my Cupid crib, I'm team Ivana and Donald, and I've been very like upfront about that. And like I totally get their, I totally get them, but everything happens for a reason, and I believe that the presidency, his involvement has been there. Oh wow, it wasn't some new idea that, oh my gosh, like I have like all this money, I could like be like the president. No, I don't think that's what it was. I think that it was something that was always put in his, and I think that there's a lot that's in his, because it's like, oh, let's impeach him, as if, but I think there's a lot in his, and I don't think that, it should go into 8 years for what everything that's supposed to happen in his to happen in year 6. I don't think that's his purpose. I think that, like, I think that everything that is supposed to happen in here is supposed to start like yesterday. And that's how it should be. That's how it should be worked. Like it was yesterday, not oh, we can do that in year 7. We can do that in year. We want to kind of guarantee that we're going to have a second election. So there's and part of that we get under people, like you want them to be in theirs too. You want them to be the best that they can be. You don't want situations like Monica Lewinsky, because no one's supporting this person being him, or this person being her. You want, and if that means another divorce, a return, then that's how it should be supported. But there is an order to it. There's Mr. Puff and Mrs. Puff. So that's a part of that order. It's like when you go into something together, everything is connected to one another. There's, the Late Show with BT, there's that. So everything is connected. Everybody not necessarily has their place, but everyone has their contribution to certain things with regards to who we are in politics. So on the cover that this came out of, she was pregnant. And I was like, I totally did not. But then there was an ad in there where she wasn't pregnant. So I'm like, I didn't even know that she had a kid. So I'm like, having to put your body through something like that to get something about life and to get something about, like, where it's not just as simple. You can claim somebody to be your mom. You can claim somebody to be your father because you feel like you're entitled to that because that's who they are to you. When you have to get everything that is in yours and in theirs, in this case, it's security, it's law, it's politics, it's arts, it's like all of that, and it's like, wow, like her body was in it too. you know, in a way that having to get like, why isn't this guy your dad? You know, like, why did you have, you know, like, do you um, appreciate that, you know, or upset about it from the perspective of a waste of time, or um, you know, having your body to go through that, or having to show this or prove this in ways that you don't quite understand. But anyway, because, you know, we feel like that, you know, and what's there because of that situation, you know, and that seemed like that's what's there. You know, it's like, okay, we're fired. He's, you know, we have to fire him. You know, yeah, yeah, we're fired from the perspective of that's what we got. You know, so it's my understanding that this Kushner has some type of responsibility, you know, and it's that maturity too. You know, it's like, okay, well, if you're supposed to know this, and you're supposed to know how businesses run, you're supposed to know how families are, you know, supposed to know when are you going to start making decisions that show that you get something, when are you going to resign, why do you have to be fired? So sometimes, if you haven't already guessed from listening to any of the shows that I've done, when that is kind of like something that I'm not really a fan of, when it's a situation where it's like, this has, like, why this has to happen, you know, like, especially in situations when it comes to suicide. Back to Morgan Freeman and Lean on Me. You know, he was like, do it expeditiously. Don't mess around. Don't involve all these other people in it, you know, so they can feel bad or have them kill you or try to kill you. You know, if the whole thing that you got is suicide, you know, why involve someone else and try to make it seem like that it's a homicide? You know, like, you're gonna write a note and say somebody shot you in the head, you know, some that this person did this to you, and then you shoot your own self. You know, you committed suicide, but you want somebody else to take the fall for a murder, for murdering you, or for a homicide with you as the victim. That is so, you know, when you get those type of offenders, you know, contact the show, because, you know, that is just one of the things that is just not cool to us at all. Turned to a package from his publisher. Emptying it onto the bed, he watched his latest royalties flood out. Christopher Mason. It used to be called Lesbian Lodge, he says with deadpan delivery. It's for sacrifices to the gods, he adds blithely. Clearly amused by his visitor's horrified expression, Brock explains that the bench was carved by a local sculptor to resemble an ancient sacrificial altar. Accordingly, he ventured to New Guinea, where he dined with cannibals, then circled the globe, paying visits to Egypt and Sudan, and sojourning in a tent in Kenya with Peter Beard, the blonde-haired, blue-blooded photographer and diarist, and his first wife, Newport Harris, a friend of Brock's family. And there's drawings by Tia Polo or Ty Polo and Rubens line a corridor. If everything's going to be urinals and shark tanks, he has, referring to how Connor works, and all the good stuff is stored underground, it makes me very worried. When kids are running around with ketchup bottles, you're not going to be putting pieces on tables like that. He turns out to be one of the finest composers of all time. The vicissitudes of fashion may banish certain works of genius for decades or even centuries before they're rediscovered as masterpieces. Brock was inspired to begin collecting when his friend, the late Jane Inglehart, the stylist and philanthropic wife of billionaire industrialist Charles W. Inglehart, gave him a Queen Anne desk. In 2009, the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston staged a popular exhibition, Splendor and Elegance, European Decorative Arts and Drawings from the Horace Wood Brock Collection, accompanied by a suitably splendid catalog containing essays by Brock, expounding his scholarly analysis of what constitutes beauty. The exhibition drew rave reviews. Of the Boston Globe singles out a few showstoppers, an exquisite Louis XVI pediment clock from around 1790, ironically the first year of the French Revolution, a swirlingly organic Louis the 15th Rococo candlestick in gilt bronze, and an ineffably swayed Louis XIV clock veneered with tortoiseshell brass and pewter, designed by the eminent cabinet maker. There's another image. The stone from the quarries was used for such projects as the Holland Tunnel below Brock's garden. Suddenly catching himself in the act of making a remark that might sound unbecomingly boastful, he says, "That's because the Royal Collection has great things of other periods." Brock's WASP upbringing often seems to interfere with the natural instinct to blow his own very splendid trumpet. "It's better than anything at the Metropolitan Museum," Brock says, tempted again once to blast that trumpet. "There used to be," he says, "an aristocracy of people who cared about quality." When the conversation returns to his collection of furniture, vases, and other objects of virtue, Brock seems eager to make sure his visitor understands the big perspective. What is beauty? I think that's a good question. I kind of take things very seriously when it comes to this industry and what we have with security and law and social security and identity. And so with that being said, beauty is one, and I mentioned it before, beauty is one of those really challenging industries to succeed in. Another thing, like, I am a member of a Baptist church, or actually St. Paul's Baptist Church. However, that doesn't mean that, public artists that care about who we are don't get the reality of life. And so part of that reality brought about pornography contribution. I'm very attentive when things happen, when it's not just any porn. It's like porn. It's like I said, my social security number, like my ID is like porn. That's like mine, and beauty found itself in there. So I'm like, what? But it did. So it's like, what is beauty? That's all. I'm not gonna go. That's like a whole nother. Like, I could do probably a whole segment on that. On the ball. So here we are. Tech billionaire GPS and Larry Ellison. With his 288-foot yacht, he downsized from the 453-footer. His fleet of planes and rare cars, his feudal Japan-style estate in Silicon Valley, his Newport mansion, which used to belong to the Astors, his entire Hawaiian island, and, of course, his generous soul. He signed the Giving Pledge. Do you really need to know what he looks like? You know what? I hadn't even thought about it, but let's see what he looks like. Larry Ellison. It's like I helped out with the NASCAR race. And I was like, I had number 2, which is Brad's. So I'm like, I didn't even know what he looked like. And then like after I was like, okay, I finally got, I finally was able like, let me see what he, and I bought a novelty item, still not knowing what he looked like. And I'm like, again, I got to that point, let me see what he looks like. I'm like, oh my gosh, not bad. So anyway, Larry Ellison. His actual name is Lawrence, by the way. And according to this, he is listed as the fifth wealthiest person in America and the 7th wealthiest in the world, with his net worth at $60.60 billion. Oh my gosh. Oh yeah, I think these are my bachelors. And he's like single. Yay. So let's see. Larry Ellison. Okay. He has a beard. He has gray in his beard. He's like, do you really need to see what he looks like? It's like, okay, I guess you're supposed to be like, okay, that's what $60.60 billion looks like. Anyway. Charlie Rosen. The Bard College student is the son of real estate lord and contemporary art patron Abby Rosen. Behind the bar, his father's Gramercy Park Hotel, Global Art Fairs, the estate in Old Westbury. Charlie Rosen. Okay, so there's 2 guys here. I don't know which one is which. So let's see what he looks like too. Charlie Rosen. No, that's not him. Charlie Rosen is not coming up. Sorry. Okay. Hashtag single. Oh yeah, so they are of the top 50 bachelors. Hashtag single. The meteoric rise in the secret world of the tech billionaire bachelor. Look and feel better now. Jamie Rosen. Surely you need to employ both. So how much of each depends on your particular needs. The beauty staple that inspires nostalgia for girlhood, sleepovers, is now one of the hottest things in skincare. Be they accordion, knife, or box, please come once again into the seasonal fold. Britain's former top diplomat lands in New York to lead one of the world's largest organizations for resettling refugees, Kevin Conley. Somewhere along the path that led David Miliband to become head of policy under UK Prime Minister Tony Blair at the age of 29 and Foreign Secretary under Gordon Brown at 41, Miliband acquired the nickname the Brain. But the tone has been set. We will be moving quickly. Since he began the job in 2013, the IRC has had to move rapidly onto war footing in response to the civil war in Syria and the rise of ISIS, all while maintaining equally critical operations in places like Nigeria, South Sudan, and Pakistan. He quickly enumerates other antiquated notions that refugees live in countries that abide by the Geneva Convention. They don't. That their displacement is of short duration, when on average they're forced to live outside their native countries for 20 years. What we are doing is setting a very clear benchmark that overall the sector needs to dedicate more resources to things that are proven. When I bring up the refugee policies of his current country of residence, Miliband now lives in New York City, not too far from the IRC's headquarters. The erstwhile diplomat wastes no time being diplomatic, because they will be part of community when they arrive. So we brought up Brad Pitt. So this is a description of Brad and Johnny. Not just any Johnny, but Johnny Depp. And what do you guess? Out of all of this, Depp is moved by Dior Sauvage to bury his jewelry in the desert. First thing you need is a cool logo. Think Viennese postage stamps between the wars. Wow. Will you let me be the guy you drink bourbon with and the guy you throw great parties with, even when we don't invite anyone? We have an out-of-network spotlight. This is where we share, because if you haven't guessed, the entire show is in network because we did preface with its views with security and law. So it's all in network. There has to be some type of connection to who we are with regards to security. And that is the basis of the information that we share. Now, granted, the two songs that we did were not in network artists. So I didn't share that, but neither of them were. But so the out-of-network spotlight is when we take the time to include, we spend so much time within network. This is our time to share one that is not in network, but is still one that is applicable to the community that we serve. Turkitarians place our turkey on a pedestal right before they put it on a plate. Our out-of-network spotlight, Butterball. For tips, recipes, and more, go to butterball.com. So again, our out-of-network spotlight is Butterball. And so another great thing about the out-of-network spotlight is that, because, it's in network is so specific, and, the out-of-network spotlight gives out-of-network artists and contributors a chance to receive not just the support, but access, however limited, to the network of the in-network, the guidance of the in-network, not that the in-network don't guide in general, but it's specific and it's personalized, and they get all of that, and we choose one per show. So this book, the book again is, because we're part of, it's like the industry has had amnesia, and it's been operating in the unknown from just being connected. It's like, it's been operating in its amnesia. So it's like when it's coming into its awareness, and so with that, the only thing to that is that you get who got it and who don't, who are actually friends and who are not, who are contributors to the industry, who are enemies of the state, or who are threats to national security. You start getting all of that. And you want to keep the authenticity of the in-network representatives, so it's like all of that is working itself out. This book is, ooh, and I'm catching my eye on Brad Pitt as a chapter. So I might just do some chapters instead of going from, beginning to end. So she's one of these, characters, a public artist that, is kind of working itself out and not quite knowing where it stands. But I don't know if you've seen this movie called I Caught It at one, because there's only two theaters that I will go to, and neither one of them is at full price. I rent movies or I go to one of these two theaters. And a time I'm awaiting Kidnap. I'm like, gosh, I was like, I put it on my Facebook when it was coming out, but it's like still because it's one of these two theaters. Just because right now the industry is going through what it's going through, I feel as though these two theaters are, even though they're not really big, I just think that they have great potential when it comes to like addressing what the industry is up against. Like I said, even though they're not, but I'm like one person, so anyway, I'm just gonna pick some of these, I guess. It's Jenny McCarthy, whose real name is Jennifer McCarthy. And the book is Love, Lust, and Faking It, The Naked Truth About Sex, Lies, and True Romance. And so it's broken down to three parts. Part 1 is love, part 2 is lust, and part 3 is faking it. So let's see if anything else comes up, jumps out at me. Lights off in the bedroom, so we're gonna do that one. And yeah, that's it. So love. So I'm just gonna read all these chapters, and then I'm just gonna like whatever I feel moved to go into, and then I'll just go into it. But I don't think we're gonna get to this whole thing. So it's finding your first love, my endless love, getting done. Why do we love who we love? Prove your love. Tattoo it. How to love yourself. A lesson from Byron Katie. Masturbation, the other kind of self-love. If I can't have you, no one will. Abusive relationships. Chocolate. Dating the Teletubby. Couples counseling. The power of loving no. Breaking up. How do you know when it's over? So prove your love, tattoo it. Just because, I always saw myself getting a tattoo as of a ring. Wearing ring, but still, like there's something about a tattoo. It's like I like the idea of a tattoo ring, but what I don't like about it is it just looking like some type of black thing going around your finger. So I don't know how to get it from that point of it just looking like some black thing going around your finger to like actually having artistic quality that can stand up against an actual ring. So and I'm gonna look through this too. Okay, so prove your tattoo, prove your love, tattoo it. After my 4th beer, I realized I was not even close to being buzzed yet. And he was buying me a beer. 2 points for him. When I walked back to my place, he slurred. We stumbled out of the bar and walked down the main street. My stomach was feeling woozy, so I said, let's get a pizza slice to soak up the booze. I wanted to be free from rules and went against everything that I shouldn't do. I hopped up on the table and stared into his eyes, thinking this guy might just be the one. As blood dripped down my lower back, I became woozy. I never had gotten that slice of peace of the circle of the booze, and the evidence of that projected out of my mouth all over the floor. I went back to my apartment and passed out. Masturbation, the other kind of self-love. But by the time puberty kicked into high gear, I threw away any thoughts of wearing a habit after Tom Cola Jackson gave me a hickey. The hormones that unleashed made me want to dry hump every altar boy that walked by. Tubby was a stuffed bear that my mom bought me on sale at Kmart. I had heard about masturbation from my friends, and they talked about how disgusting it would be to touch yourself, so I avoided the idea like the plague. I'm not kidding you when I promise you will hunt me down and thank me for giving the best experience of your life. I used to be like that in my 20s. The problem must be taken out of your mind, for that is where it really exists. When just long enough to bathe and dry and dress, and then get out of the bathroom into a room where you will have some member of your family present. By the time you start to remove protective clothing, you would have sufficiently controlled your thinking that the temptation would leave you. Read good books, church books, scriptures, sermons of the brethren. Make a daily habit of reading at least one chapter of scripture, preferably from one of the four gospels in the New Testament or the Book of Mormon. Above anything else, the Bible can be helpful because of its uplifting qualities. Unloading the gun, feeding the dog, milking the prostate, churning butter, dishonorable discharge, punching the clown, Uncle Gary's spray hour, beating the meat, polishing the bishop, milking McNuggets, slapping the monkey, playing Yahtzee, throwing the dice, wrestling the one-eyed serpent, feeding the ducks, 5 against 1, greasing the weasel, one gun salute, summoning the genie, varnishing the flagpole, whaling the dolphin, and my personal favorite, making sock babies. Chocolate. My acne then became so bad I had hair extensions added to conceal my face. Then Easter came along and my body began to convulse with excitement. I went to an Easter egg hunt with Evan and found myself at the children's table peeling off wrappers and shoving chocolate into my mouth with the 5-year-olds. By the time he woke up, I had consumed everything in it. So we're in pornography right now. And it's like, and the reason I stopped because Evan came up. It's like, and he's like, oh, you understand why, like I can just see him sneaking in, going to the store trying to look at porn. All because she did this chapter on chocolate and put his name in it. By the time he woke up, I had consumed everything in it. He said, Jenny, you have to be loaded with candida. We generally don't know to follow up the antibiotic with a probiotic. Probiotics contain good bacteria which help keep the gut healthy. Natural probiotics can be found in yogurt. When good bacteria are not present, yeast grows rampant if the host consumes sugar. Then the host experiences mood swings, severe acne, rashes, bloating, chronic fatigue, and food allergies. There is a whole list of substances found in chocolate too boring to run through, but the bottom line is that these substances trigger the release of mood-enhancing chemicals in the brain. Some researchers say that one particular substance releases dopamine in the pleasure centers of the brain, which peaks during orgasm. So breaking up, how do you know when it's over? So I plan on interviewing people on why they broke up and how they knew it was over. She had a child with him and for the most part was head over heels at the beginning of the relationship. Yes, this is Kim. Kim, but yes, but there was so much resentment toward each other that the odds were not good. We never kissed anymore. Not that I wanted to. He was lazy and would not help me with the baby, which made me hate him even more. All those everything happens for a reason and everything happens for the best reason possible books made me take a chance. I left him because he doesn't even know our pediatrician's name or the brand of chicken nuggets our child likes. To be fair, I hunted a guy down to get his perspective on how he knew his relationship was over. And this is Kevin. I realize you can come up with, in that question, to be fair, that was back with Jenny McCarthy. So, Kevin, I realize you can come up with a zillion reasons why things went bad, but the easiest thing to realize is that if you're not having fun in life, change your life. I also thought about my life and that I'm 37 and never pictured myself to be as miserable as I was. Well, I know I was a prick sometimes too, but she did most of the complaining. I don't know if I want the next one in the book. So back to Jenny McCarthy. If I look to blame my partner, I lost all the wonderful lessons my teachers, ex-boyfriends reflected back to me. And trust that everything that happens is for the best reason possible, even if it is saying goodbye to someone you deeply love. And that was love. So now we're going to part two, which is lust, where there's fantasies or secret life, sexual harassment, STDs, the gift that keeps on giving, threesomes, fetishes, the need to get kinky, what happens in Vegas, astrological signs, best sex partners according to the stars, cheating, thou shalt not covet another vagina, sex facts, did you know, man junk and lady bits, me so horny, the perfect booty call, and songs to do the nasty too. lust. So fantasies are secret life. Have you ever planned a vacation or a big girls' night out in months before you had visions of how much fun it was going to be? Then days before your big trip, you call your friend saying it's gonna rock because in your head it was already the best time ever. The obvious one being your fantasies are pretty much always better than the actual event. Sexual fantasies are usually the biggest disappointments to play out. I think it's because they are so incredibly erotic in our imagination. But then having to actually go through with it will result in devastating consequences. I think a lot of that has to do with women today being so busy. Our minds are usually stuck on what groceries we need rather than sex. So is fantasizing actually a bad thing? I don't know what eunuch wrote that, but I think it's bull. I mean, I know I come up with some pretty crazy scenarios, so I'm sure most of you do too. But if you're a school teacher, how do you tell your friend that you dream about the science teacher molesting you in the nurse's room at the school? But it had more to do with the scenario, like being tied up, than it had to do with a stranger walking in and having sex with me in the middle of the night. But if you want him to be a little more aggressive so your rape scenario works in your head, just tell him to throw you around the room and rip your clothes off. This is definitely a fantasy that you have to be in the mood for, otherwise she might punch your partner in the face. The word orgy entered the English language in 1589, but orgies have been going on long before there was a name for them. But most of your OBGYNs aren't attractive in the least bit. Think about it. It's funny how incredibly judgmental we are about these two professions, yet in our fantasies, we are the star stripper and the naughtiest whore in the brothel. We want to be drooled over. We might just do what they want for a really big tip, of course. Maybe men are supposed to be extinct someday and we're just preparing ourselves. That seems to be the most typical for the two guys at once scenario for girls. But to all those chicks out there that do, God bless you. They followed it up, of course, by saying with the occasional my wife making out with a chick in the bed, but mostly just my woman. They have to concentrate while we get to close our eyes and imagine having sex with their best friends. Fetishes, the need to get kinky. I could barely handle having my period every month, so I'm always amazed by the ability paramedics have to not vomit on their patients. They tried knocking on his door and he shouted, "Please break the door down and come in." She shouted, "Sir, we can't break the door down. We are going to call in the fire department to break it down." Boom, bang. The firemen broke the door down. They rushed inside the apartment. Since then, Kelly said there have been a couple of other different types of fetish calls from all types of people, but nothing as entertaining as the bass and the ass. I dated a guy once who will only reach orgasm during sex by turning around and looking at my feet. What happens in Vegas? With the evolution of cell phones allowing normal folks to capture their dirty deeds, paparazzi no longer need to be omnipresent. He could have saved that whole sentence by just saying, "We protect cheaters the best we can." Bachelor parties are the most dangerous events a dude can go to in Vegas if he is attempting to be a monogamist. Let me tell you, it didn't go too well for the bride. Every guy slept with or got eaten alive by the stripper. If I was a horny dude looking for a twister partner, a brothel is where I would go, only because of the strict STD screenings they do. My curiosity on this particular subject was overwhelming, so I hopped on a Southwest flight and flew my ass to Las Vegas to interview girls at the number one brothel in Nevada, the Chicken Ranch. And this is Michelle. The potential to be naughty is at their fingertips. A lot of times when they come in, they just want someone to listen to them, so you tend to be the shrink. Some pick out who their husband should be with and then just drink at the bar and wait for him. I still enjoy them because they want to know so many different things. So back to Jenny McCarthy. For all you ladies out there that might be on the kinky side and want to treat your man to a night of chicken for your anniversary, I can tell you they have the best legs and breasts in town. So this should be interesting. Sex facts. Did you know? The way some health freaks are, I wouldn't be surprised if they start bottling it up and selling it with other vitamins. I take that last part back about wanting to be a pig in the next life. Did you know that the first known contraceptive was crocodile dung used by the Egyptians in 2000 BC? Yikes. With that rate, in vitro could be a good stock to buy for the future. Did you know that the first couple to be shown in bed together on primetime television were Fred and Wilma Flintstone? Maybe that's because Fred was as hard as a rock. And there was one that I said I was going to do. Okay, let's see if we have anything in this. Songs to do the nasty to. Some of them I wouldn't be caught dead listening to, but everyone dances to the beat of their own drum. At the end of the list, you will find my personal selection from my own iPod labeled Booty Call. So how about Jace Everett Bad Things theme from True Blood? Need to Breathe, Something Beautiful. Never heard of them. Never heard of Jace Everett either. But evidently we got it some kind of way. Jenny's iPod Booty Call playlist. Okay, faking it. Lights off in the bedroom. Oh, okay, yeah, faking it. Boobies, just clumps of me. The facade, love the fake me. Aphrodisiac, so we don't have to fake it. Lights off in the bedroom. When Botox goes bad. Women, the masters of manipulation. The making of a Polish porn star. Brad Pitt. What are friends for? My Buddhahood. So we're gonna do lights off in the bedroom, and of course Brad Pitt. But if we got when Botox go bad, we'll do that one. So lights off in the bedroom. For the rest of the female population, body issues plague our thoughts whenever we try on clothes in front of a mirror, wear swimsuits on the beach, and of course, during sex. It's when I become most paranoid about myself because I don't want any man to be less attracted to me, especially considering the fact that I'm getting older. I really envy women who are on the bigger side and have confidence they are 100% hot, lights on or lights off. Guys are attracted to confidence. If we can just get ourselves to be like that, we might be okay with a little junk in our trunk. And I guarantee our men will be too. What men who are also aging in the bedroom need to realize is that having the lights off during sex is beneficial to them also. Men have a tendency to get a little big in the belly, and what usually follows are man titties, which are far worse than any amount of cellulite a girl could ever have. The other benefit to a dark room is that I can imagine myself hot and naughty. I have noticed though as I get older that I have zero interest in trying to fake being turned on. I want to be lusted over and I want to lust over him. Sure, it's a kind of faking, but that doesn't matter. I need to feel good for me. Otherwise, I'm going to fake more than the lighting. So Brad Pitt. Mainly because they don't have sponsors like a movie premiere, they are forking out their own cash to wine and dine, and it's obvious they spend it only on booze. Not to be found until the next day when the disease subsides. I laughed and said, "Oh no, I'm looking for the bathroom." The guy showed me where the bathroom was and I headed toward it. I wanted to shove my tongue down his throat, but I controlled myself and decided to just bask in his scent. The thing about celebs is you almost need to be one to understand the science of picking one up. Then I heard a familiar voice talking to Brad. I turned around and saw it was the guy who showed me the way to the bathroom. The guy caught me looking at him and clearly felt bad that he had steered me to the line with all the normal folk. He asked if I wanted to use that one too. Brad looked at me and I kept my focus on the guy and smiled. Then I casually responded with, "Yeah, that'd be great." So the three of us headed to the bathroom and I stared at Brad's butt the entire time he walked up the stairs. God, I wanted to bite it. We made it to the bathroom and Brad went in first, leaving me to talk to the guy that showed us the VIP bathroom. "My name is Noah, by the way," he said. But all I could do was imagine that Brad Pitt's penis was exposed 4 feet from my body. I had flashes in my head of being the first woman in the world convicted for rape, and women everywhere in the world cheering me on for doing so. I smiled and walked right past him, cool as a cucumber, into the bathroom and shut the door. There goes my one shot to bone the sexiest man alive. So Brad just invited me back to his place to hang. Who is this creature I must destroy who looks cute as a button dragging my rape victim to a car? I stood there confused as Brad climbed into the back seat, leaving the only place for me in the back seat next to him. Brad must have asked Noah to ask me to come back to his place. The pussy blocker had to be Noah's girlfriend. A butler or something approached us and asked if we wanted a drink. I was seriously putting out so bad from nerves that I asked to use his bathroom strictly to wipe some of the sweat away. We made out for a few minutes, and then I pulled him into the bathroom. I was giving it my super duper naughty face, and just as I was about to unzip his pants, the freaking butler shouted that my drink was ready. I stopped him and said, "Want to do me in the butt?" And I got like 2 minutes. So I'm going to go back to the making of a Polish porn star, which is the one right before Brad Pitt. Polish people really know how to party. I was only a teenager, so it was really awkward when men would come in and buy the magazines. I threw it in their bag and damned their sausage to hell. The one magazine that made me a little curious was Playboy. Those girls didn't seem like whores, even though I was certain they had sold their souls to the devil. I took the bus downtown and stared out the window, dreaming of the fame and fortune that I was sure this commercial agent was going to offer me. She immediately left and told me to get a bartending job. I stared at the giant metal bunny dominating Chicago's skyline and thought, maybe I'll just go talk to somebody there. As I walked across the street and entered the building, I had visions of my mom crying and holding my leg, screaming the Lord's Prayer. Yet, I washed my hand, reached for the elevator button, and I stepped inside. I thanked her and began to walk away. I wasn't cut out to be a new model anyway. As the elevator doors opened to take me back to Poland, I heard a voice say, "Excuse me, are you asking about becoming a playmate?" I walked out and stood in front of the camera, began to pose like I was getting a mugshot taken. The entire bus ride home, all I could think about was how stupid I was for going there and how I should start to fill out application of bartending as fast as possible. We couldn't get any more Catholic short of being the Pope. Anyway, I told my sister to calm the hell down because there wasn't a chance in hell that I would get it. Ring, ring. I answered the phone, and it was Playboy telling me that I was going to be Miss October. Either they were desperate or I was destined to become Chicago's polished porn star. As I paced my bedroom, which was as big as a closet, I realized that this was my ticket out of the barrio. So I went out to the Playboy Studios and started my first day of posing in my birthday suit. Boobs are one thing, but a girl's nether regions are precious cargo. The photographer said, Jenny, you have to bend over and then try to turn your face to the lens while sticking your butt towards the lens too. He told me that I was going to burn in hell and that I had shamed my whole family. My body started trembling because I knew he was right. I was going to burn in hell and I had shamed my whole family. Things went downhill the rest of the week. My house was covered in toilet paper. My sisters, who were still in my alma mater, were tortured by the girls there. She says I'm her hero, but to many others back home, I will always just be the hairiest Polish porn star from Chicago. And that has been the book, Jenny McCarthy, Love, Lust, and Faking It, the naked truth about sex, lies, and true romance. Of course, it's not the complete book, but I'm sure you can find it somewhere. So this has been a Late Late Show with BT. Bye.